For going in an adventure, you need difficulties, you need danger. If the death was not a possibility, coming out would be nothing. It would be kindergarten, but not an adventure and not an art.
When my friends and I started climbing peaks in 2016, it definitely was adventure, but it sure as hell was an art.
I'm Anthony and I fucking love this. I'm Jared, I'm trying to stay hydrated. I'm Adam and I'm fucking edgy!
Hi boys. It's actually 2:42 right now in the morning. Cedric! Of course I'm not.
2001 again, bro!
I'm alive! And I see things mighty clear today. I'm alive! I'm alive! And I'm breathing clean, fresh air today. I'm alive! I'm real! I can taste and touch and see and feel. I'm alive! I'm alive! And I'm doing my thing and singing my song.
My good college buddy Anthony got me into backpacking my sophomore year. After a couple smaller trips, we set out to explore Death Valley, get horribly lost, found again, and then climb Mount Whitney, all in one long weekend. I had no experience in the high country, let alone on snow. I lugged out hand-me-down and borrowed gear and was woefully unprepared for and uncomfortable in the backcountry. Nevertheless, being able to revel in the glory of a crazy weekend of adventure while sitting in a university lecture hall the following week more than made up for the discomfort. I didn't even know there was a list of so-called 14ers at the time, but before long we found ourselves going for the summit of Mount Shasta in full-on winter conditions, even less prepared than we were for Whitney.
Sitting here, y'all, doing my thing. I'm alive. I'm no stone. I'm alive. No rock. I'm alive. Yeah. Piece of metal, y'all.
At this point, I was hooked on the grandeur of the mountains and the adventure one finds in the backcountry. Anthony, Dan, and I hiked the Sierra High Road that summer, giving us a taste for longer trips deep into the Sierra. We passed by some 14ers, but their sheer granite walls did not seem particularly inviting. I spent the next year getting after it, climbing Mount Whitney 2 more times via different routes, and the Hotlimbolem Ridge on Shasta. Anthony was hiking the PCT over the summer of 2018, and I joined him for a short section in the Sierra. This was an opportunity to bag Split Mountain, my third 14er. Shortly after, I headed back to the east side with Jared and Adam to climb White Mountain and Mount Langley.
Heading up to Split Mountain right there.
Tell me anybody, now do you really give a damn for me?
Split Mountain.
I said, tell me anybody, do you really give a damn for me? Oh, 'cause I just got to tell you about a thing that's bothering me. I was a rambling pony. I would roll, I would roll, I would roll from town to town. I was a rambling pony. I would roll from town to town. Yes, just looking for a sweet woman.
After standing on the summit of my 5th California 14,000-foot peak, I started to think that climbing all 15 would be tenable. While I was still obviously having fun, I began to take the idea of climbing mountains more seriously. Their severity and simplicity both drew me in. Everything is up to you in the backcountry. My increased acumen in the wilderness and fitness in general was tested by climbing Mount Williamson and Mount Tyndall in one day with Anthony. Over 12,000 feet of climbing and 30-something miles in just 17 hours.
It's 3 a.m. Let's see if we can do this shit.
If I need anybody, maybe I would take you home with me. If I need anybody, baby, I would take you. Baby, I would take you. Baby, I would take you home with me. Oh, but I don't need nobody.
Following this, the crew set out on an even more ambitious trip, setting the lowest to highest speed record. This rugged route climbs over 33,000 feet and 135 miles, heading from Badwater Basin in Death Valley, the lowest point in the contingent United States, to Mount Whitney, the highest. 3 of the 6 of us succeeded at clinching the new fastest time: Anthony, Ari, and myself. On the way down from Mount Whitney, I somehow found the strength to climb Mount Muir via a short Class 3 route off the trail, my 8th California 14er.
And that's exactly what I mean to do.
By now it had become obvious that my forays into the wilderness were not just about recreation. It would be hard to market the sleep-deprived hallucinations, emergency bivvy with Anthony and Ari at 9,000 feet, and exertion far beyond the point of exhaustion of low to high as fun. But the more I spent out there, the more I had to keep doing it. I was certainly pursuing something more than fun, but wasn't sure what it was. Anthony and I upped the ante further by attempting more technically challenging peaks in the Sierra, scrambling mountains in the scarily ambiguous Sierra Class 3 and 4 range. In the fall of 2019, Anthony, Ari, and I headed out on a weekend trip for North Palisade and Mount Russell, 2 peaks with significantly more exposure and severity than any we had encountered before.
Get nutrition at the top. Got a nice little climb right here to get us up towards. We just did a pretty exposed section. Feel pretty good.
Still looking for the shoot. Yeah, just like kind of lock your arm.
Summit here, stay on the top. Yeah,
Sometime around 6:30 or 7, climbing Mount Russell. The Legends! Technically only rated Class 3, the precipitous drops on all sides of Russell's East Ridge defeated me, and I turned around short of the summit while Anthony pushed on solo. Risk of death is always present, but this is the first time it was extraordinarily palpable for me. Each move, though fairly easy, required proper execution as to not fall 2,000 feet to the basin below. I felt defeat in turning around, but I can't help but think that this trip was an inflection point for me. It no longer was just blindly sending it in the alpine with reckless abandon, but being deliberate about defining acceptable and unacceptable risk. Speaking of acceptable risk, a few short weeks later we'd be back to climb Thunderbolt Peak, a 5'9", and Starlight Peak, a 5'6", in the Palisade Range. Neither Anthony nor I were real climbers at this point, so we enlisted the help of our buddy Halvor, the Scandinavian climbing stallion. It was a crazy weekend of intense high alpine climbing. Anthony and I both learned a ton, and he completed all of the 14ers with the summit of Starlight Peak. I still had a ways to go.
Nice. Oh. How you feeling, Matt?
Good.
After bagging these two epic peaks, I graduated from college and got a full-time job. In my very limited time off, I would always rush straight to the mountains, and in this fashion I climbed Middle Palisade by myself, along with many other non-14,000 foot peaks in the range. I returned to Mount Russell with Ari while on the Southern Sierra High Route. Coming back to and climbing Russell proved we both had made significant progress in our mental strength and control, which is probably the single most important form of toughness for peak bagging.
Way up to Russell.
I moved to Squamish for the summer of 2022, where I cut my teeth trad climbing under the tutelage of my buddies, Axel and Ben. By the end of the summer, I went from complete novice to swapping leads with Axel on an 18-pitch route up to 2,000-foot sheer granite walls of the Stiwamis Chief. I returned to California in the fall with real climbing skills and only 2 14ers to go. I headed out solo to bag Mount Sill and Polymonium Peak in the oh-so-familiar Palisade Cluster. I scrambled up to Sill's summit and traversed over to the airy Knife Edge Ridge on Polymonium. I attempted to free solo the ridge, but turned around. It was good to be alive, but boy did it suck to stop only 50 feet below the summit of my last 14er.
shoot. Just trying to get up to the Mount Sill. It's my 14th or 15th California 14. Just down there. The Knife Edge Ridge. Pretty steep. There's some stairs. 3,000 feet drops on both sides. Then get back down.
I tried again for Polymonium weeks later, this time with Ari, a rope, and a light rack, but we were turned around once by fire and a second time by early snowstorms that ended the season. Polymonium would have to wait another year. At this point, realizing the goal had become a sort of obsession. My mind was consumed by visions of adventure and danger while in the city. I felt a stubborn necessity to climb peaks that bordered on neuroticism. Perhaps it was my goal-oriented nature, or striving for dreams yet unfulfilled, or the purity of the mountains.
We're gonna go down because there's more snow than we thought.
Finally, I was able to return to the Palisades in 2022 to attempt Polymonium with a random climbing partner I met online. We were frustratingly turned around at the Polymonium Glacier for various reasons, my fourth unsuccessful attempt at the peak. Soon after, Ari and I headed up for the summit. With storms in the forecast, but small weather windows scattered throughout, I was determined to stand on the summit of that damn mountain that had thwarted me for over a year.
I think it should go. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll see how I feel.
We had little time to celebrate our victory as a huge thunderstorm rolled in. Rain came down, thunder clapped, and lightning flashed as we descended. Perhaps Polemonium congratulating me, or perhaps raging angrily like Poseidon at Odysseus that I had finally conquered its cliffy summit. I recently reread my journal entry the day after climbing Polemonium. It reads, quote, "Felt good to have the rope and be confident at 14,000 feet with safety systems. I have progressed a lot since climbing Whitney in 2016 as a hiker, a climber, and a man. The mountains are not centrally responsible for this character development, just one piece of the puzzle. Climbing them is simple, severe, beautiful. It is a weird and arbitrary hobby, but then again, I guess most are. I think I need to set more ambitious goals in the future, ones I am not sure are possible." Unquote. We are often hunting for that one revolutionary thing to change our lives for the better. If only I had this, or accomplished that, or bought this, or traveled here, things would be better. I am no different, and at times I perhaps over-indexed on the value the natural world held in my life. Climbing peaks is not a panacea for the human struggle, but the pursuit of summits, much like the peaks themselves, is simple, dangerous, severe, and beautiful. And life becomes all of these things in the mountains. It may not be a panacea, but it is a damn good way to forge the self.
And I see things mighty clear today. I'm alive.
What's up?
I fucking love this.
I'll learn how to
You could just.
I'm real. I can taste and touch and see it. I'm alive.
You get the sunglasses on still.
Yeah, I have. It's just like system.
I feel for the moment, man.
I'm so excited. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired now.
Third time's a charm, boys.